Hello and welcome to episode number 52 of Global Insights with Sree and Sree. And today we have some important breaking information. Before I start sharing those things with you, let's welcome our host Sridhar Chityala ji. Sridhar ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskaram and very good morning to you on this Monday, most important week in the US election drama. It's the 14th to 18th when things need to happen.
So, viewers, let's first take a quick look at the US elections and then we will tell you about some very, very interesting breaking news about members of the CCP party, the Chinese Communist Party, being embedded in various organizations in the West and also another big pot boiler. All that coming down the pipeline. But to start with US elections, take it away, Siddharji.
Thank you, sir. So the U.S. elections has reached its most important phase. The December 14th and December 18th are important dates. December 14th, when all the different states are supposed to certify the elections and send their assign their electoral college votes so that the president can be selected. So you know that the 6 battleground states have been hanging in balance. There's been a number of cases filed. The Pennsylvania case has been where you had the 39 states, 17 Republican and 22 with president's legal team doing the intervention. So 39, that's been rejected by the SCOTUS, which is effectively to state that the Texas had no jurisdiction in terms of extending its tentacles into the other state. And even before they could hear Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania is making a case, which is to say, at least hear us out so we can tell you what the rationale is. Unlikely that they would reopen. Sticking to SCOTUS, Sidney Powell has made a case that she's making another appeal that they found new evidence in Michigan on this 220,000 mysterious kind of ballots from the drop boxes. And she says that she has new evidence that she can present, so therefore the SCOTUS must take a look. She's also made another plea, which is they will provide an overarching evidence as to why the elections need to be decertified. Based on what they're seeing in Arizona, based on what they're seeing in Michigan, and of course, based on what they're seeing in Georgia, which is the most kind of contentious in terms of the evidence. You still have that 600,000, postal ballot votes, which have been certified. On 83% of them have not been, tracked. You also have now, Lynn Wood has discovered that, there's close to 200,000 postal ballots, fake or otherwise, already found in Arizona. And some of the ballots being shipped from Arizona into Georgia. This is besides the Michigan. There's 1.2 million votes. They continue to be in the discovery process in Pennsylvania. Also in Michigan, the most important, both in Michigan and Georgia, the forensic evidence data. Georgia is withholding, but I think Michigan is likely to release the forensic evidence on the Dominion voting machines, and they are saying it's not an error, but the adjudication is actually a fraud. This is a claim of Sidney Powell. Wisconsin, they seem basically resolved to the fact that they're not going to hear. They've heard everybody and they want to move forward. The federal judge has dismissed Trump's as well as other election petitions that were pending. In the meanwhile, there was a $3 million due from the Trump's team from a recount point of view. They have refused because they're saying that the recount was fraudulent when they assigned 87 seats in one of the counties that to President-elect Biden. So that brings us to Nevada. Nevada is still hanging, but I think they have certified already their outcome. Given 11 seats, I think that is a background legal case that will go on, will be wrapped up. Primarily, the issue is around non-domiciled, duplicate, plus there again abnormal pattern of allocation of votes to President Trump, President Biden, President-elect Biden. So that was the contention in Nevada. Arizona has not yet kind of certified. Arizona, the legislature passed a resolution after their state hearing last week to say that the SCOTUS should set aside the certification because they believe that the integrity of the system and the integrity of the process, the way the elections were conducted, is in doubt. So therefore, the election is void. So the Republican members of the legislatures are filing that in the Supreme Court. So this is on the kind of at a state level what you are observing. In the meanwhile, there is the growing chorus within the United States, especially around the security community and agencies, as well as some of the legal who have been avid supporters of President Trump, that he should exercise the 2018 executive order that he had passed. And effectively, in kind of a high-level summary of this executive order is that in the event the National Investigation Agency, the head of the NIA, determines that the elections were not fair and fair and transparent, and he suspects fraud in the whole process, then he can basically conduct an independent inquiry and submit a report. And that is December 18th. I think it's 45 days from the election date. That's the due. So that date comes to December 18th. So there would be then a report tabled by Mr. Ratcliffe after conducting due process. Remember, the due process is subject to scrutiny. It's not random and arbitrary. Then an executive order can be passed which decertifies the election. So we have those two. Then we get to the January 6th House and Senate. All it requires is one House member and one Senate member to express doubts and say that the electoral process and the electoral vote allocation should be discussed. And once those discussion is allowed, Chuck Schumer has come up and told Ron Johnson and Mo Brooks that, you guys cannot now. President Biden, elect Biden has been fair and trust. We don't want another discussion, another, what you call witch hunting going on here. So the story is that we must accept the norms of the people. So, but should that come up, that and the NIA is the last bastion. In my view, at least SCOTUS seems to have indicated this is not the forum for conduct and determining the outcome of the elections. You have to use your legislative branches to determine that this is not a judicial branch decision. So that's the sequence of events that we will see as we go on. What happens beyond January 6th, whether this can go on till January 20th, is a matter of conjecture, but people are saying January 20th by Constitution is not cast in stone when there is so much of doubt.
Thank you very much for that overall roundup. And now we take a look at some other fast-moving developments. First of all, Sky News Australia came out with a detailed video about the fact that about 1.95 million Chinese Communist Party members are embedded in various organizations in the West, in the United Kingdom, in the United States, including in big companies such as Boeing, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and so on and so forth. And perhaps as a retaliation, we don't know if that is true or not, so we should not say that it is because of that. The entire Google network was down for I think about an hour before it just started coming back up. We were not even sure we were going to be able to broadcast this live on YouTube, but luckily everything settled down and we are now broadcasting live on YouTube. Sir, this was information that was released by a Chinese dissident in the 2016, and 4 networks across the world had up to 4 years to go through all this information. Why do you think it took so long before they came out with the story, and that too after the elections?
Well, I think that this specific story that you're alluding to is part of the what you call IPAC, Interparliamentary Interparliamentary Association Coalition. So this is supposed to be a broad, independent group which looks at of China. Sorry, independent parliamentary alliance looking at of China. So it's basically looking at whether there is Chinese interference and influence into policy making bodies and think tanks and so on. The fact is 1.95 million people are embedded in across the world in various institutions and high commissions and embassies. Either it's a significant intelligence failure, or it is an obvious intelligence failure, or it is obvious but not obvious. That seems to be the situation. Now, mind you, this is not an isolated one. I think we had a very detailed coverage yesterday on this specific topic. Not just this topic, but broad overall in terms of the Chinese strategic kind of approach ever since they formed this new policy. Mr. Pompeo also made a comment that close to $6.5 billion is injected into many universities, of which he listed 12 of them as part of endowment by 3 countries. And China tops the list, and Russia is number 2. In terms of influencing the policy, education, and the mindset in terms of why there's a favorable things that needs to be in. Why they didn't discover this before? Because there was no disclosures. That's Scott's view, which is to say that there was no disclosure, so that we can find out there's a disclosure violations. But the point that you're asking a very fair question. This is a significant number. Why they didn't do it? I mean, I don't want to second guess, but I think that nobody didn't want to speak about it. Right? That's about it. And why they didn't want to speak about it? They didn't want to speak about it. Why why today? Because there is a mass interference, whether one agrees or not, in the US elections, which is the oldest democracy in the world. When you have an infiltration and this attempted level of magnitude of perceived and alleged fraud, where you see evidence, but nobody is willing to go deep dive and analyze this evidence. So people are now saying, let's investigate and open up everything that is around this ecosystem. Because many of the democracies are waking up and saying, this could happen to me tomorrow. And I think that could be the only reason that there has been, I call, retooling and reconnecting all the data points and coming up with the evidence. And maybe some of the dissidents are speaking out because China is not walking the exact bed of roses as far as Hong Kong is concerned, right? Hong Kong has had problems. Whether these servers were located in Hong Kong, whether anybody from there is speaking up, we don't know. But all I can say is all these things are opening up as a result of what we have witnessed and witnessing you take Dominion systems. There's a lot of data which says that Dominion systems has connections going into China, though the Chinese deny, but it says it's going into. So that's all I can kind of speculate and contemplate by way of an answer.
What is striking is that the United States had 4 years to fix this system because allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 elections were aired, and people have been sitting around. This is the most advanced democracy in the world, but somehow America managed to make a mess of its 2020 elections. Now, there is more stuff that is coming down the pipeline. We are about 13-14 minutes into the program, but this is also very important. It cannot be swept under the carpet. So, what happened on October 20th, 2020? That is just days before the third and final debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump was going to take place. Came news that there was a coalition or an agreement between an entity that comprised of Joe Biden's brother Jim Biden and Hunter Biden and a few other associates who were going to get into a deal with China Energy. And in this deal, there were many names mentioned, and these names and what is the implications, we're going to talk about it. Sir, this is a video that is running right now because you will not be able to see it. I'm showing all the names that are mentioned in this, and I'm also going to be sharing the email itself that was written by Jim Biden, and that also will be part of our story in the web, so people can take a look for themselves as to how these people are involved. Sir, what are your thoughts, sir? How come they did not come up at that third debate, and now it is slowly coming out, which is what is striking me, that after the story is over, a lot of stories are coming in. I mean, it's really strange.
Well, I think it's there was again this discussion around this topic across the country. One of the themes that's presented is, it's very clear that the mainstream media is anti one way, pro the other way. So the mainstream media refused to take this up and not even ask questions that relates to this. So when you have no interactions by mainstream media, there is no mechanism by which this issue can be raised. Either you raise it with the concerned people, or you publish stories so it props up as an issue, at least in the eyes of the media. So the mainstream media played its part. The tech and the social platforms did even further role. So you have to go and put this issue up. You will continue to find there is a little strand that comes up in Facebook. Well, Twitter is even more draconian. If you do it 3-4 times, they will just simply ban you. Remember, this was done by New York Post. What did Twitter do? Twitter brought New York Post down. When Hunter Biden issue was thrown up, they brought it down. They shut it down. And so therefore, you have the social and tech platforms who play this role. Now, if I ask some of my Democratic friends on the other side, and if Republican friends are helpless because they're clueless and they can only say, hey, we would like to see that happen, but the story is no. But you ask the other side, well, bad luck. This has happened to us. This happens all the time in the United States. So you have tech platforms and you have no kind of, the more amazing is that there is no intention across the United States by community to come together in a center ground, which is to honestly assess, look, we have a problem, that problem needs to be fixed. So in other words, we have said this, there is no center, there is no objectivity. We have moved either right or we have moved either completely left. So which is the reason why you did not have this issue surface up? It is possible that some of these agencies have started to do. Now, I also hear the Department of Justice has been doing this because both Scalise, Ron Johnson, and I think it's Ron Paul who raised the issue. How come we were not, the House and Senate was not not made aware of this investigation when Department of Justice has been looking at this since, 2018 or 2019, because they have stated that they have been looking at this since 2018, 2019. So there seems to be a complete collective failure on the part of the agencies as well, not to have brought this issue much ahead of the elections rather than just on the eve of the elections.
Thank you, sir. And this is developing events again, and we will have to see what happens. And stay tuned on this one. So Hunter Biden's name front and center of many a scam. And this is going to be weighing in very heavily on Joe Biden's presidency now that his running mate, his vice president-elect, also is named in this scam. It's going to be troubled waters. That's all I can tell. But let's see how this thing plays out,
So
sir.
I want to add 2 points on
Yes,
this.
yes.
That
Please go
before
ahead. Yeah.
I think the first point that I want to add is this 1.95 million names is a bigger concern. And whether it's just 1.95 or whether it is 5 million, we don't know, right? Because it's now reported that there is a DNA-based database that's being created by the Chinese, which is look at the most influential members. That's number one. Number two, I think you alluded to the fact whether the the systems crashes relates to possible incidents that you alluded to. But there's one more incident that occurred over the weekend, so we should not rule out, which is the Russian crackjacks taking down and intruding the Treasury and the Department of Commerce email systems. What they were trying to find, we don't know, but they did, crack into that system. Whether that's possible into Google, I don't know. I want to point out that.
Well, we're going to be touching upon that in this segment, sir. Let us take a look at COVID next. COVID vaccines are beginning to roll out of their Michigan plant. And what can you tell us about how COVID is being contained in the whole world, sir?
Well, COVID is, I don't know whether it's the right word, that COVID is being contained. I think COVID seems to be expanding at a rapid pace. I mean, I just heard this morning that China's 3 provinces are under lockdown. Obviously, they haven't mentioned which provinces, but 3 provinces are, by now, maybe that news is out. I'm here. So the story is 3 provinces are under lockdown for virus. Korea is seeing escalating cases. Thailand,
South Korea.
Indonesia,
South Korea. Yeah.
South Korea. Sorry, not North Korea. Yes, South Korea. North Korea, we don't know. South Korea is seeing escalating cases. Indonesia is saying. Germany is going to do a full lockdown, full shutdown. Europe has seen resurgence in the cases. Obviously, the talking point is United States is seeing escalating cases in United States. So while that goes on, there is very positive hopes, which is called as the vaccines. The first set of shipments went out yesterday in Michigan from Kalamazoo factory of Pfizer. So we expect 100 million first set of vaccines to be starting from Tuesday, which is tomorrow. People been getting vaccinated, frontline workers, healthcare workers, people who are in hospitals, who are in emergent need, including the government officials who are in critical positions to continue to for the conduct of the business. So these are all kind of prioritized, and there's also statewide prioritization in terms of the distribution. We expect about 100 million people to be vaccinated. Britain is well on its way in terms of vaccination, all Pfizer. Then India will soon commence its vaccination kind of program. They probably are, testing various protocols. They've got 3 different schemes going. Asia has got the vaccination. I mean, Japan is leading with, again, Pfizer, Moderna, and the AstraZeneca version. So they've ordered all 3, 100 million, 50 million, and some 40 million vaccines. So they are on their way. Europe, I think, well, again, on the back of, Europe is the headquarters of the biotech kind of industry. So you will see that Europe also. So there is a very positive disposition on this whole vaccination program, and we expect things to even out in due course.
Okay, sir, let's take a look at markets and economy. What do the Dow futures tell us? Last I checked, it was up. What is the latest on that, sir?
So it's called as the vaccine stimulus. So the Dow Jones was up at 249. The futures, the markets don't open for another hour. So the future is up about 250 points. All 3 indices are up. Dow is up, Nasdaq is up, and then of course the S&P is up. All 3 are up on the back of positive disposition towards the vaccination programs that are underway. Also, there is a hope that the stimulus will be back in discussion. I gather that the $908 billion, which is put up by the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell, seems to be leading the pack right now as we speak. But then, the whole stimulus discussion has been, like a yo-yo going up and down. But there would be a stimulus. I think that whether that happens before Christmas or whether that's something that is done and then gets rolled out in January remains to be seen. But very much everybody is looking forward to the stimulus program.
Thank you very much, sir. And one little thing I forgot to mention in this email that was written by Jim Biden and discussion around it, data has emerged that there is mention of a big guy who's supposed to be getting 10 million. Who's the big guy? We don't know. But we are sure we will see more of this. That is one other smoking gun that is doing the rounds today. And the 1.95 million CCP members, almost all of them appear to have come from the Shanghai region. Whether that is important or not, I don't know. You can tell me a little bit, sir. What is the significance of that? And that will be the last thing we'll discuss before we log off today.
Right. We got, I mean, Shanghai region. Okay, Shanghai is the headquarters of the finance, trade, and commerce of the central institutions that govern the world are located from a Chinese point of view in Shanghai, right? It is the biggest, next to Beijing, it is the biggest ecosystem epicenter of activity. The only thing that I can say is that if Chinese have adopted a hub and spoke model, which is what they do because it's command and control from one single. So this won't be a surprise if it is from that specific region. I mean, almost all of the major epicenter of activity originates out of, when they shifted things from Beijing. Beijing was government and Shanghai was, commercial. By the way, just on that point, since you said all the three, and Alibaba and what's the third one? They have all been now subjected to further regulation. Further regulation. So they are containing them even further. This is again another breaking story. Further regulation. And where would they come from? Shanghai.
And this dovetails nicely with our reveal a few days ago when we talked about a Chinese professor influencing United States policies and politics for the past, before Trump came along, through the Wall Street, isn't it, sir?
Yeah. From Renmin University, which is not too far from Beijing. Mr. Doxing was the professor who has come out and indicated that, look, China has been controlling and managing and influencing many of the activities. Look, this without any doubt, this is the case. Why it is the case? Because even you look at each of the market pundits who come and opine in the television shows and as it relates to markets, not one person talks about three important things which we touched yesterday. One, democracy. Two, human rights. Three, trade and commerce practices. And fourth, legal and compliance. Nobody speaks, right? Everybody talks about, they're good, they manage this, it's a 6% growth, it got set up, etc. But they're willing to take the punishment and turn a blind eye to the other facets, which they conveniently use. For example, when they pick India. When they pick India, they pick all these issues. But when it comes to China, you will never see a market pundit or a leading finance executive talking about this. Because then, why they don't talk about it? Because it's probably there is no butter on the bread, right? Because there's enough layer of butter on the bread to know that they prefer the butter. Okay.
And viewers, we have got a lot of stuff on China for you, by the way, and you're going to be, we hope you will continue to support us and follow us and give us a very, very strong thumbs up. Our subscriptions are beginning to go up again. Thank you once again, and do subscribe to our channel. Refer to our names to your friends and family. There is a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. We are going to analyze China threadbare. We are going to tell you what exactly was the things that were happening in their kitchen. We kind of know how they think, and it's amazing how many things have been orchestrated over the past several years, and all those are now coming home to roost. That's what it took to put the current government in place. This is my conjecture. I could be wrong, of course, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong about this, because if a Biden presidency makes things easier for Chinese, that's going to be a very, very hard, difficult time for the world. Let's hope that Biden will not move away from what Trump has been doing in the last 4 years against vis-a-vis China, because you have a bigger problem, and I hope they don't move away from that. Let's see how it plays out. Thanks once again, Sridharji, and we'll be back next tomorrow, same time, same channels. Namaskar.
Namaskar.